Namaste. My name is Preity Upala, and I am a global thought leader and a multimedia personality. Welcome to my podcast, The Preity Experience. Join me as I explore some of the most fascinating and crucial issues that affect our world today. I take a unique global perspective on these issues, and the very foundation of my insights is humanity and spirituality. I'm Preity Upala, and welcome to the Preity Experience.
United States President Donald Trump had a choice when he went into this election's televised presidential debate: woo the undecideds or woo his base. He decided clearly to do the latter, resulting in the most acrimonious and bad-tempered debate in US history. The initial run of instant polling, focus groups and commentary gave Democratic candidate Joe Biden a slight edge amongst watchers, but the 30 to 40% who said they felt Trump was the winner indicate his followers liked his tough guy act. Trump deliberately sought to throw off the Democratic Party hopeful with constant interruptions, attacks on his family members, and a stream of non-facts about his opponent's record. The Republicans have sought to portray Biden as too forgetful and doddering to serve in the White House. A number of undecided voters and focus groups said they didn't buy Trump's talk, though, of Sleepy Joe anymore. Biden's campaign netted $3.8 million during the debate, a record one-hour haul for him. To analyze how this first presidential debate really went for the presidential hopefuls in America, we have a special panel with us. Ambassador Deepak Vora, former diplomat, is joining us live. Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, is also live with us. Pramit Pal Chaudhary, foreign affairs editor, Hindustan Times, is with us live. And Preity Upala, editor, The Observer, California, is joining us on the broadcast as well. Ambassador Vora, since you're in the United States, I want to begin with you first. Preity, I'm not sure, are you in the US as well?
I am. I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay,
yes.
So I'm going to come to you as well in just a second for a perspective. Ambassador Vora, let me get you in here first. So it's great. We have two American perspectives coming in today. Ambassador Vora, first to you, what did you personally make of the debate last night? And how have you, been watching the channels and papers and other outlets there? How have they been analyzing how this debate went and who actually it translated into greater TRPs or greater brownie points for?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm sitting in New York, so you'll forgive the fact that I have a scarf on because it's a bit cold and it's watery, it's windy and it's raining on the East Coast. Great opportunity to learn from you and the other colleagues on the panel. First thing about the debate yesterday was, to my opinion, and I was watching it with a bunch of friends and family, that it was two almost doddering persons hurling accusations at each other. The history of presidential debates in the United States is very, very interesting. The first, according to what I read, was maybe 1858 between Abraham Lincoln and his opponent, but that was face-to-face because radio and television didn't exist at that time. Then the radio debates came and people were listening rather than seeing. The first presidential debate was between a young and handsome, dashing president who later became President John Kennedy and Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon looked like one of these guys who doesn't care about his appearance, whereas Kennedy was fresh, was handsome, was good looking, was staring into the camera and talking, according to people who saw that debate, and I saw some footage. Yesterday, what happened in this debate between Donald Trump and the opponent, Joe Biden, it was as expected. President Donald Trump is used to stealing the limelight. He tried to do it. I don't think any substantive issues were raised, anything earth-shattering was said. It was on predictable lines. His viewpoint is well known. He talked about the coronavirus, he talked about the economy, talked about race, and talked about Antifa, the anti-fascist movement, etc. We all know that. And then he attacked Biden personally. But when I think Biden lost some points was when he asked the President of the United States to shut up. Now, that kind of language, I believe he was provoked beyond his limit of tolerance. And that was the game that President Donald Trump was trying to play. And he won hands down on that. Yes, he interrupted Joe Biden. That was part of his game plan. But he was never insulting, or he never sought to humiliate his opponent. In fact, the moderator constantly referred to Joe Biden as Vice President Biden and to President Trump. He still is the president. You may like him or you may not like him. So a certain amount of courtesy was expected. So the instant polls have been on predictable lines. CNN, which loves, quote unquote, President Donald Trump, attacks him on everything, he immediately came out and said, oh, the other guy won. Fox News, for example, turned around and said the president has won. But our considered opinion is that it was 50-50. It's not going to change those voters who are already committed. Trump's committed voters, and I had some sitting with me, the hardcore Republican, who said, look at our man, he's superb, he speaks the truth. The one thing that got my attention was when he referred to the Chinese virus figures. He said, the Russians tell lies, the Chinese tell lies. And he mentioned India for good measure, that you can't trust the figures from India. I noticed that. But that was a passing reference. I don't think we should set too much of store by that. I would say on a personal assessment yesterday that it was 50-50. It's not going, this is the first of 3 debates. I don't believe it's going to have any kind of major impact on the result, which most voters already seem to have decided who they are going to vote for. So.
Okay, so it's not going to have much impact, is what Ambassador Vora's assessment is. Preity Upala, come in here on how you, viewed the debates last evening, how you believe it went for both the hopefuls, what people's reaction there is, who you've spoken with, how, TV analysts and other print analysts are analyzing how the debate went last evening.
Well, firstly, namaste, everyone, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Well, I think America is still in shock. We're still recovering. That was a debate that I think nobody deserved. Some outlets rightly labeled it a national embarrassment, and in some ways it was. I mean, obviously they're exaggerating a little bit. Debate is very much a part of any election campaign and process. But I think nobody expected what went down. It was interesting. I think we were treated to all sorts. The first half was sort of a combination of, obviously President Trump kept interrupting candidate Biden, and I think that was a little petulant and immature. But other than that, I think he was making good points. He was actually pretty strong. I think one could even say that he sort of came out on top in a sense, but I think the constant interrupting, the petulance, the immaturity, he just seemed angry, which didn't help his cause, because I think honestly, this debate was his to lose. So many people were so excited, and in fact, they were even wondering if there even would be a debate. I think Biden, in some ways, overperformed. People didn't think that he could really stand up to Trump for that period of time, but I think he more than did that. And I think people thought President Trump would be so confident of his stance on many of these points, and that he could just, confidently make his case. I mean, in some ways, this is a great platform for him to, again, bring up the China plague, as he loves to call it, and honestly make foreign policy the central theme of his campaign, which is a very wise thing to do. But I think it was a bit of an overkill from the president. He didn't need to do that. It was really his to lose. So that was disappointing. And it's interesting, I watched the debate live, and then I looked at all the different news channels, and yes, it's you tune into the CNN or MSNBC, and they just think that Biden did a great job, and they caught that one sentence about the Proud Boys, which is I wouldn't call it a white supremacist group, but it's some kind of nationalistic group. And when President said, stay back and stay around, they made that the focus of all the reporting. And then you tune into Fox, and everyone thought the president did great. He hammered Biden. I think bringing up Hunter Biden's record with Ukraine and China, I think that was very important. I think he definitely got points there. The segment on law and order, believe it or not, he actually tackled that very well. There were several instances where I think he made his point very clearly, and you could just tell that if there was an audience actually there, they would have clapped for those in those moments. So it was interesting. I dread that we have 2 more of these, and of course the vice president to. So, I told my colleague I'm not going to bother tuning in, and he was like, yeah, sure you are. Of course you're going to, because, I'm going to write and speak about it. So this is just a continuation of the whole US election, which has become really an extension of a drama series, a saga at this point. It will not sway any of the undecided voters. In fact, I think some of the confused voters are even more confused. Now, this debate is not what they expected it to be. I think Biden overperformed in some way, and the president kind of fumbled when he shouldn't have. So people are thinking, what's really going on here? So, I'm excited for the next round of these debates. Obviously, there'll be new issues at hand. But I hope to see less petulance, more maturity, and just composure next time around. I don't know if we'll get it or not, but at least that's my hope.
Professor Nalapat, come in here on how you viewed the debates last evening. The fact that world affairs did crop up, in the middle from time to time, be it the China virus or be it, of course, the Russian connection of Donald Trump and whatnot. So how you view that, and also how you believe undecided voters would have reacted to the way the debate went, because these debates are also an opportunity for the undecided voter to make up their mind.
I'd like to say that one of Trump's moves, which is getting Judge Barrett and trying to get her confirmed as an Associate Justice Supreme Court, I think that's going to damage Trump a lot, for the simple reason that Roe versus v. Wade is a very big issue in the United States. It's a question of the right of the woman to choose, and Judge Barrett, frankly, is completely on the other side so far as Roe v. Wade is concerned. And the second point is that Judge Barrett has multiple times, spoken and written, not so much on the bench, but off the bench, about healthcare and healthcare reform. And frankly, I don't think she has any good word to say about the Affordable Care Act. She even went after the Chief Justice of the United States because in a judgment, they affirmed the act. So the Affordable Care Act also, I'm not an American, but I've been following US elections for a long time. As I recall, I was one of the earliest to predict the victory of Donald Trump. And I'd like to say, stick my neck out and say, this is Joe Biden's to lose. And he has done pretty well in this debate. And Trump has done very well by the Democrats by choosing an unrepentant ideologue to be his next choice for Supreme Court. Both the issue of women's rights and the issue of healthcare are very important. And I think Trump has shot himself pretty badly in the foot. Now, as far as the debate is concerned, I quite agree with Ms. Upala that everybody expected Biden to fold up. And in fact, there's been a lot of, inspired gossip that he's senile, he's got dementia, and all kinds of crazy things have been said about him. Well, he didn't show any sign of dementia or senility, and he took on Trump. And in some respects, he was as unpleasant as Trump was, as rude as Trump was, which I think came as a relief to some of his supporters.
Okay. Pramit Pal Chaudhary, your assessment of how that first debate has gone, and whether you believe all the debates will be like this, will they be as acrimonious, or you believe there will be course correction by either of the presidential hopefuls, looking at how the reactions and outcome went of the first one?
My sense is that Biden is leading, not only in the national polls, which don't matter so much, but more importantly in the battleground states. He has a roughly 3 to 4% lead. So for Trump, the real game was to see if he could try and at least eat into that lead, especially for battleground states, most of which are in the upper Midwest, and of course a few southern states. He didn't, in my view, accomplish very much, as most of the other panelists have said. Nothing will change on that ground, but that gives Biden the advantage. Trump tried to bring out, if you wish, use a race card, trying to play up on the law and order issue, portray Biden as weak on police concerns. He tried to portray the tried to associate Biden with the left wing of the Democratic Party, while portraying him as a return to socialism, whether it's on the Green New Deal and healthcare and so on. And then, of course, as others have mentioned, I think he tried to rattle Biden and try to be able to show that in an extempore situation that, in fact, Joe Biden was Sleepy Joe, hoping that he would sort of fumble and cause. And on all three fronts, I think he largely failed. He did succeed in one area. That may not have been his original plan, which was so that Biden didn't come through with a vision. You had no idea at the end of it what Biden actually stood for. All you could get a sense of is that Biden was a nice guy. He's an experienced politician. He's not Donald Trump. Other than that, there wasn't very much. The idea of what does Biden stand for was I think lost, and I think that was an accomplishment, if you wish, of Trump's steamrollering tactics. But Trump, while his base will stand with him, he's not made any inroads, I would argue, among undecided voters, which are now down probably as little as 5 or 6% of the vote. But I think the biggest loss or biggest failure on Trump's side is that a number of key voting groups which have supported him against Hillary Clinton, this includes suburban women in particular. Women are the largest single vote bloc in the US election. Suburban women supported Obama, switched to Hillary in very large numbers, and backed Trump in this election, they've been switching to Biden. Suburban women, large chunks like soccer moms and various other groups that sort of lumps them all together, are very safety conscious. And both the coronavirus, which has really been a nemesis of Trump in this election, he has really struggled with the virus, not with Biden, not with anything else. He has really struggled with COVID-19. He did not come through in this debate as having any real idea of how he was going to handle it. And he really did not come through with a sense of being presidential about it. He just, there's a vaccine coming. The Russians and the Indians are just lying about their figures. I have a mask here. Not enough. And so he's not been able to break this idea that he's not the president who can handle the pandemic. And this has really been what has killed him more than anything else in this election campaign. He's still rates better than Biden in terms of handling the economy, because the economy was booming until the pandemic hit him. The dysfunctionality of his administration was not very evident until the pandemic came in. And he still doesn't have a solution. He doesn't have a sense, you don't get a sense that he knows what exactly to do about this. And I think that has been the biggest failing of this debate, is that the virus is what is killing his presidency or his chances of being reelected. And he had a chance to try to overcome that, and I don't think he did. There'll probably be at least one more presidential debate. At least definitely the Biden team has said they're prepared to go ahead for one. I don't think it'll be any less rancorous than the present one. I don't think either side believes that they need to change their tone. Definitely, I don't think Trump does. And so for the real presidential debate, if you wish, the one on actual policies and so on, we'll probably see that in the vice presidential debate, where you have two very seasoned politicians, Mike Pence and Kamala Harris, who I suspect will be very polite with each other, will be the ones who will actually explain what their governments will look like in the future.
All right. Ambassador Vora, you were talking, of course, about how Republicans reacted to it. But the fact is, yes, Donald Trump has to keep his Republican vote base intact. But has he decided to not woo anyone else? Is this tough guy image to ensure that his loyalist base stays intact that supported him in the last election? Preity Upala says she was disappointed by it. She's hoping for a more polite conversation next time around. You doubt that's coming, Ambassador Vora. So what explains this strategy of Donald Trump and the Republican Party that's backing him?
The way he was pouting, the way he came onto stage wasn't very different from the last debate 4 years ago when he took on Hillary Clinton. It was the same Trump performance. He was flamboyant. At times he was petulant, he was angry, he was impolite. But also when he sort of looked at his opponent, it was, well, I'll gobble you up and have you for breakfast. Joe Biden, on the other hand, smiled a little more. But really, the debate was about personalities more than about issues. I believe on issues, they both concur. They both think the virus is a terrible thing. There are differences of degree between the two people, and neither of them, as has been rightly pointed out by Mr. Chaudhary and by Professor Nalpat and by Ms. Upala, actually made any earth-shattering statements about their policies and the way forward. It was a restatement of what they have been talking about for so long. Just one other issue that is important to note is that these presidential debates are not mandated by the US Constitution. They have become an integral part. There's even a commission on presidential debates that was established some 30 or 35 years ago, and that has organized these debates in many, many countries around the world. So it's not essential, it's not constitutional. It certainly has a very large audience. But I think this time, the audience, at least the people I was with from both sides of the political spectrum, were in it just to reconfirm their views that Trump is going to be Trump and Biden is going to be Biden. And I don't think anything changed that perception. The vote banks of both are intact, and the undecided voters will probably wait till the last minute, as they have already done, deciding to vote. And in between now and the date of the election, if something happens, another international issue comes up, and Trump sort of shows his tough guy image again, I believe they will swing to Trump. My assessments are sitting in the United States, I've been here now for a month, is that this election is for Trump to lose if he wants to. If he plays his cards right, sir, he's back in the White House.
Preity Upala, your reaction?
Well, it's you mentioned is president trying to woo other groups?
Yeah.
Well, yes, there was a concerted effort by his campaign to actually woo the Indian American diaspora, because obviously they are very influential and very generous in backing candidates. And we've seen a sway because traditionally they vote Democrat, but since the last few years, I think because of the Democratic Party's, seemingly antagonistic stance towards the government of India's internal domestic decisions and issues, things like Kashmir and CAA and NRC and so on, we have seen the diaspora split here, and there is quite a shift to the right, where people feel that a Trump administration back in the White House will be better for India vis-a-vis foreign policy and our neighborhood. So that was a group that was ready to be wooed and already wooed in some ways. But I was very disappointed to hear him throw in India when he was mentioning rogue actors, who are not transparent about their numbers, Russia and China. I don't think India belongs in that group. Actually, it's quite transparent. And also, I think later on, he spoke a bit about climate change. And I think India is one of the countries that's doing the most in this area. It's really, Prime Minister Modi, this is his personal ambition, climate control and what he can do for the climate. And I think other world leaders have acknowledged and applauded this. So it was a little disappointing for me as an Indian American kind of viewing all of this. And of course, I want the best for America and the best for India to hear that. But like Ambassador Vora said, I think it was something in passing. He sort of doesn't think sometimes before he speaks. I suspect he might say something in the future that's more neutral. So yes, honestly, I have been predicting this for several months, even before the pandemic, that it will be it'll be Trump's to lose.
Okay.
And up until a few months ago, he was looking really strong.
Yes.
And suddenly things are looking a little bit more stressful for him. These debates will continue. I don't think this is going to make
Professor Nalpat, personal remarks aside, what do you believe the main issues will be that the American voters will vote on come November?
Well, I think the main issue, China, is definitely going to be an issue. There's no doubt about it. And if I may say so, the economy is going to be a major issue. But the reality is that Trump's weakness is that he's concentrated completely on his base, even to the extent of not calling out certain racist organizations that are supporting him. I think that was a mistake. So far as Indian Americans are concerned, I think Biden and Kamala Harris have acted very unwisely in some very ill-considered remarks about the Prime Minister and about Kashmir. I remember in the Clinton era, Bill Clinton turned cartwheels trying to hand over Kashmir to Pakistan. And I'm sorry, but Biden and Harris seem to be turning the same cartwheels. That's a mistake. How many Indian American voters will be influenced? Quite a lot, there's no doubt. The point is that, look, by choosing Miss Barrett over the Cuban American alternative choice, and these two ladies were put front and center, the Hispanic vote is an extremely important vote in Florida, in Texas, in Arizona, in states that Trump absolutely has to carry. And the fact is that by basically talking so much about the Hispanic candidate, who, by the way, is a very good candidate, and eventually, going for the hardcore, hard right, ultra conservative, candidate, I think Trump has damaged himself, the Hispanics as well. So I'd like to say that I fully agree. This is Trump's to lose, and so far, my impression is he's doing a pretty good job of losing.
Okay, Pramitpal Chaudhary, last word to you. Do you believe that this advantage that Biden has will continue up till November, and then it'll just depend on how voters go for a possible surprise again by Donald Trump, and then of course, all eyes will be on how we'll accept the verdict or not?
Well, I think the acceptance of the verdict is going to be, the most interesting part of it, because even during the debate, he made it clear that he saw mail order vote ballots, which will obviously be skewed to the Democrats, as suspect. Made it clear that he didn't think there'll be a result for months, he said. And if you look at what both parties are doing, they're literally lawyering up. They're literally hiring hundreds of lawyers in preparation for what they see as a huge battle. And it's interesting to note that Biden avoided attacking Barrett in criticizing her at all as an individual, partly because he knows that she may be the deciding vote, or she's one of the deciding votes in a battle that could go all the way to the Supreme Court. And whatever else about her, she's a very dyed-in-the-wool judge, and she herself has publicly said that I do not believe that a judge's personal views on morality or ethics or religion should be allowed to sway their view on legal issues.
Okay.
And Biden is the Catholic, not Trump. She's a very devout Catholic, and it is Biden who is the believing Catholic in this presidency right now.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it at that. My thanks to all of our panelists for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the Newsx YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.